Paranormal Pals, and welcome to the Secret Society of the Spooky Sisterhood podcast. I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Melanie, and if you've stumbled into our headquarters here, our Not So Secret Society is a community that's built through social media to connect like-minded paranormal enthusiasts, and our goal is to lift up those in this space, especially but not exclusively women who traditionally haven't had that opportunity. We hold events both live and virtually, offer a bi-weekly blog, run a Patreon with additional spooky perks, and lots more to come, like this podcast. Each week, we'll be joined by a member of our sisterhood, a special guest, or both, as we discuss one of many fascinating topics on the paranormal, or what I like to call the spooky adjacent space. Our hope is that our podcast will have a little something for everyone. So without further ado, let's call this meeting to order. So for everyone who has returned, welcome back. And for those of you who are here for the first time, we are so glad you're here. I'd also like to welcome Spooky Sisterhood Council member Rachel to tonight's meeting. Hi, Rachel.
Hey. Hey, everyone.
At this time, we don't have any urgent business to attend to, so let's get to the good stuff. I am dying to introduce you to this week's guest, someone whose work many of you are familiar with. This person is someone who is a paranormal equipment developer, builder, an educator, a researcher, an experimenter, an author, an investigator, a scientist, an engineer, a content creator, listen, a Reiki master, and honestly, I can't even keep going because the list is too long. I think
she's ADHD, folks.
I think she would agree. Most importantly of all of these things, though, she is my friend, and she is Lauren Hellekson. Hi, Lauren. Do you have anything else that we should know about you outside of all of that?
I'm just glad you didn't tell everybody how... Wait, do you curse on here?
Yeah, bring it.
I was just glad that you weren't like, but most importantly, she's a bitch.
They'll figure that out on their own.
Thank you.
It's fine.
Okay, good. All right. Just want to make sure. We got to check all the boxes.
So is there anything I left out? Did I cover it all except for that last bit?
Oh my gosh, I zoned out halfway through your list. I don't even. I dabble in many a thing and just collect them like they're shiny stones, I guess. Although, give me like 5 years ish, and we'll be able to say electrical engineer and almost physicist.
Amazing.
Wow.
Hopefully, it's
and
a lot of
physicist. Yeah, that's lot of math.
That's
Way
my
too much
big goal,
math.
though.
Yeah, too much.
Well,
math.
technically, a bachelor's in physics, but I'm going to call myself a physicist, and everybody can just shut up.
I'm pretty sure that if you drop an apple from the air to the ground, you're a physicist because you're doing physics. So I support this. I hope my brother never hears this because he is a physicist.
I was like, we're not going to talk about the minimalistic. No, I'm just
I'm real bad at science, so I'm really just guessing here.
It's a lot of math.
Yeah, it's a lot of math. It's a lot of like understanding geometry. It's a lot of understanding, all of math.
It's a lot of
every
math,
part of it.
A lot of electromagnetism, which is like my favorite subject.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially in the paranormal, right?
Exactly. And that's something, let's talk about that in just a minute, because I definitely want to hear more about what parts of like the scientific world really are taking a part of what you are doing or playing a part in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But first, could you tell us a little bit about like your childhood, your upbringing? Like, where did you grow up? Was the paranormal part of your childhood, or how did you get into the paranormal?
It was, other than like, I would say my mom was really big into Dean Koontz. So there was like a horror sci-fi aspect to my childhood. She was a reading teacher. So we always had access to books, and she very much liked Dean Koontz and like John Grisham, and so lots of like mystery horror stuff that I had access
Hmm.
to. But no, other than that, my mom was a teacher. My dad worked at a hospital, and we had just like a very run of the mill childhood kind of.
Kind of.
So there was they definitely let me be weird though. So
Yeah.
that was a good part to it. I was definitely the my sister was like an all-star athlete, and she played like every sport in the world and was amazing at all of them. She was like the cheerleader captain, and and we would go to summer camp where she would, this is just a really good example of the kind of child that I was, and then we'll fast forward.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
we would go to summer camp, she would do like basketball and kayaking and rock climbing, and I did um, miming and edible plants
I love that though.
and magic.
That's
So
amazing.
that is a great example of the kind of kid that I was. And I would sleep in boxes and tell my parents that I was practicing to like be a cat. And they just really embraced it and allowed me to be so weird, which is great.
That is great.
Yeah, yeah, it was good. It's either that or they were just like, we don't know what to do, so we're just going to ignore it. It's one or the other,
Amazing.
but either way, it worked out fine for me. So, but
I mean, that support is huge though. Like that, knowing that you've got people who have your back, whether you're gonna be a weirdo or like the cookie cutter, like that's great to know that you have
I
that.
I don't remember my parents ever directly being like, "You're weird, you need to stop." So I will give them that. It was definitely like I want to try this, and they were like, "Okay, I guess we're gonna try this," and I want to do this, and I was in dance, and I took any kind of dance I wanted, and I learned how to play violin for 7 years, and then I was like, I want to learn how to play guitar, I want to learn how to play, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to be. I had chemistry sets and
I was just gonna say, tell me your ADHD without telling me your ADHD.
yep, not diagnosed until I was 39, and then I discovered, medication, and it's been amazing.
That's great. And so how did you end up getting into the paranormal then?
So with like the kind of spooky horror sci-fi being a weird kid obviously comes a lot of like the literature with it. So um obviously definitely into like the magical world of like cryptids and fae, and I was a big like fae teenager, very into fairy lore
Mm.
and things like that, and just being like one of the, we all say like, oh, we were one of the weird kids, but it was like the nerdy weirdness of it, and I didn't ever have a lot of people around me that were also into that, so I always kind of felt that it was just like a weird like little sort of secret thing that I had that maybe one or two people knew about. And then got through middle school and high school, and it wasn't really until high school that I was interested in the actual like paranormal as a
Mm.
field.
Hmm.
So I had definitely like loved ghost stories, loved like spooky stuff. Are You Afraid of the Dark all day long, Goosebumps books, all that stuff. Super, super into it. Didn't realize that it was like a whole world until, you're watching the Sci Fi Channel. And then in 2004, they have the premiere of TAPS, Ghost
Mhm.
Hunters. And I was like, oh, people do this as like a job.
Yeah.
That's wild. So like I wasn't like, oh, I was interested in Ed and Lorraine Warren or anything like that. I had no idea this was a field until high school.
Did you ever have any experiences, like paranormal experiences when you were younger?
Nope.
Okay. But you're like, it sounds like your parents really allowed you sort of the freedom of
It was,
expression and curiosity.
I think it's like, I know that there's a lot of like a ghost story got me into it, but it was really just it was almost like the lore and the mystery of it that got me into it. Um, I probably wasn't effectively until like, I think maybe 24 was when I first had, like, I believed, I would say that I had a belief in it, but it was never something that I had like a visceral experience probably until I was like 24 years old and I had moved out for the first time. And I moved into this old, like, historic building in downtown Ravenna, Ohio, Riddle Block number 9. And it was one of the first places that I had actually done like investigating as well, too, when I started to be interested in the investigative side of it. But no, before that, it was like, if I had had any experience, I didn't know that I was because I was just, it wasn't for a lack of trying, but no, never did. Never really had any kind of like, ooh, I see ghosts, nothing like that. So it was really more like I chased the paranormal. It never really found me. I found it. And I continue to, which
So,
lines up a lot of reasons with like what I do in the paranormal.
yeah, and I was kind of going to ask something I think a little similar. I know that this space that you've kind of carved out for yourself in the paranormal is really centered around science. So have you always been science minded? And what drew you to the paranormal and science? They seem a lot of times, I think, to be kind of at opposing angles, but I know we'll talk about that a little bit more as well, too.
I have always, okay, so I have always loved science for the magic of science. So it's not even the science for the science. It was always like I loved the alchemy and the chemical reactions. I loved the witchcraft of science. And I love how weird just actual, like, we don't really need to have like confirmation bias in the paranormal when there's stuff that's like real data driven information that is mind blowing. So I was always just in love with just, yeah, like the magic and the mysticism of science. So it's always had a duality to it, especially just even historically with witchcraft or women that were accused of witchcraft. A lot of times they were healers and they knew about herbalism and they knew about a lot of things that are that drive a lot of modern medicine and things like that. So a lot of the things that we thought were magic and the things that we thought were aliens and the things that we thought were paranormal all had explanations that we didn't have access to quite yet on the scale. Yeah. And we're gaining that now with things like quantum physics, but relatable quantum physics, not the I'm going to throw around powerful words that I don't know what they mean quantum physics. Sorry. Pet peeve unlocked.
Understood.
So I'm wondering if you can kind of elaborate to some ways that maybe historically science has been a part of the paranormal.
Oh my gosh. I mean, whether it's from I mean, if we want to talk about almost just using alchemy as a magical modality, whether it is chemical reactions creating fire or creating things that seem to look like ice or smoky reactions, all from very simple, accessible means. Alchemy was, and even now too, in modern magic shows, but up until especially in Victorian, 1800s, mid 1800s, things like that, you had a lot of people that knew a lot about chemical reactions of different materials, different accessible materials, different plants, things like that. And they would use that to essentially trick people into, believing in these phenomena that were happening. And even in terms of probably some of the more famous occurrences of this sort of, and we don't think of it as science because we're like, well, they were tricking people, it was faked. You do have to know how to manipulate things in order for them to be fake. And something that's a little bit more chemistry involved would be like tintypes and the ethereal beings that they would see in these very famous tintypes, or the ones where there is this like smoke coming out of this person's mouth. And all
like
of
an
these
ectoplasm.
photos, yes. And all of these photos are still very much like up for debate of people still thinking that they're very, very authentic. And it's like, there are ways that we absolutely can explain these occurrences. Or like old time, or even now, a really accessible, like magicians using quick burn paper. There's specifically like alchemy and chemistry all over the place when it comes to mysticism and paranormal. And then we even use scientific style equipment to validate our own paranormal experiences in investigation. And I have found more often than not, a lot of times the understanding of how that equipment actually is working, or what it's documenting, or how it's documenting, or if there's false positives, isn't widely known. Even by like incredibly seasoned people, there is a lot of knowledge that's still left on the table. And then when I say something like using quantum physics as a means to perpetuate, false narratives in the paranormal, it's those buzzwords. People talk about, oh, well, string theory is the reason why ghosts exist. But there's never can we elaborate on what that is?
Yeah.
Or
That's just,
there's different experiments in the paranormal that are sort of like blown out of proportion in a way that perpetuates paranormal phenomena. And it's like, if you guys just, like, these things on their own are mind blowing. Like, we don't need to try to use these stuff to perpetuate that your mom's house is haunted. We can just like revel in the fact that it's happening.
Yeah.
so true. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of, they call, theories, like one of the ones we lean heavy on is, right, stone tape theory. So, I mean, I've talked a little bit about that at different paranormal conferences this year, especially, but I think that, people don't understand that started back like in spiritualist, 1800s, Society for Psychical Research, right? And there were these great thinkers, philosophers, scientists of the time that were really looking at like, well, is there plausible explanations for the phenomenon that we're getting? And so I think it's helpful to like, I think, put those pieces together, and promote that. Is that something that you really strongly believe in?
I think there are so many more pieces to a lot of the things that we talk about. And so we can take stone tape theory, for example. And even though there are some different logical fallacies when it comes to explaining theory in any kind of, because one, it's either we have to talk about personal theory, which is typically 99% of theory in the paranormal is what we are calling personal theory. Right. Scientific theory is actually explanations of factual data-driven evidence. Correct. So we don't have a lot of science theory in the paranormal because it's just not possible to have science theory in the paranormal, but we'll treat theories like they're science theories because people did, 2-day experiments on them. So if we take something like stone tape theory, a lot of the information that we get that we can research about it is some outdated information done by paranormal focused groups, and there's a large lack of like peer review in the science community. And it's because if something is being more heavily criticized in the science community, we tend to pull away from the science community instead of embrace it.
Yeah, we should lean in a little bit more into that, right?
Because there are a lot of like geological things about like limestone and granite that would discredit a lot of the ideas when it comes to any sort of energy consumption when it comes to stones. So it's not necessarily like that means the whole story is stone tape theory isn't a thing. But it's like the idea of stone tape theory could be a piece of a much larger picture.
Agreed,
because on its own, if we have all the information that we can get and we add the information very specifically, like geological structure of material, it collapses. And in the paranormal, if something that confirms our bias collapses, it makes us upset. Instead of like, no, maybe that's collapsing because we are missing a lot of underlying structural information that might be able to support it. And we hear string theory a lot in the paranormal. And if we take string theory in science, it's doing the same thing. So string theory can't be proven. It can't. It's not real. It's not anything. It is a theoretical framework based on the idea that we would have to have 11 dimensions for it to work. And because of the work that we're doing with different subatomic particles, these ghost particles, I did a video on that, we are able to start to form this idea that the possibility of all these dimensions could make string theory very plausible. And string theory being very plausible gives us this idea that there may be more than our 4-dimensional framework that we live within. And that's motherfucking huge. Sane. So when people get really up in arms when I say stone tape theory can't hold its own weight in stone and they get really mad, I'm like, but you don't understand. We're doing this to stone tape theory. What's all of this? There's so much that we could be probably learning deeper. So especially if you talk about stone tape theory, take a deeper dive. Take a deeper dive than what we have access to in the paranormal, because I find information in the paranormal is so incredibly diluted in order to perpetuate confirmation bias. And there's so much, and it's all so cool. And it's like we're cheating ourselves by not allowing ourselves to like have our feelings hurt because our favorite, technique is, other people don't like it, or our favorite theory is debunked, or anything like that. It's like science is debunked all the time, and that's how we build. You build on it. You have to build on it. We can't just say, no, science is wrong. And we can't just say, oh, well, it just hasn't been proven yet. No, find all of the reasons why it's wrong. Piece through that. And you're going to start building this big picture of something way bigger than we could ever imagine.
So I
have to go do some math.
Go do math right now. Actually, don't go do math. Do it right here. Just using your brain. I want to hear all the math. I'm just kidding.
Pull out the whiteboard and
yeah. We showed you earlier how you can do your there it is.
I was doing a video on dimensions, actually.
So you did have the whiteboard.
I
How
do
funny.
Have a whiteboard.
You were ready.
I felt it there. No.
My husband's going to get me a bigger one.
Yeah, you need like these full size. Like I remember
that's
that.
That's what I want.
Just your whole studio back there needs to just be whiteboard
just one
all
big
around
whiteboard.
you.
I agree.
Yeah,
I concur.
Just wear a GoPro when you do your videos and just like go from board to board. So to keep you from having to do math, I do have a question about Do you think that there's any credible scientific evidence out there that does support the existence of the paranormal as of right now? Not something down the road, but like as of right now, do you think there's anything?
It
A
would
loaded question, I know.
it would still be, so there are things that I'm just saying we, okay? I am
Yeah.
actively, well, I'm enrolled, so I'm just going to start to say we when it comes to science. Okay, so there are things that the science community actively is, like, there are things happening right motherfucking now that completely will change every point of existence for us, like, as we know it. And there's constantly things being discovered that are totally mind-blowing. But, like, when I say, like, give me 5 years and I'll be a physicist, it's because I have, like, a deep targeted location goal of just somewhere that I hope allows me to step in and just be like, can I just say I'm employed here for 24 hours, please? Because they're doing the research that I want to do. And it's insane to think that, so if we were, let me digress, because my mind will start to melt. When we say the word paranormal, that para is that beyond, that other,
Outside
so
of
that
paranormal,
it's something that is beyond our normal scope of understanding. So if we say paranormal, beyond the normal scope of understanding, and that's very broad, because obviously when we say paranormal, we mean like monsters, ghosts, cryptids, those things. But if we just use aliens, well, those aliens are becoming less paranormal. If we just use that word like as it just means on paper, point blank, ghosts don't exist, then like 90% of the things that are just being worked on right now are absolutely paranormal. There's just research using like particles that don't fucking exist, and we're like actively working with them, but they don't exist. Like things
That's wild.
that are very hard to wrap your mind around beyond a lot of the things I do. I did a video, the label of it is ghost particles, and it goes a little bit into this. But yeah, we're quite literally doing work and research on like the empty spaces of matter, of the things that like it's crazy. Not just that, but like quantum entanglement was 1,000% this whole like sci-fi thing, but it's actively something. Now, I will say it is blown out of proportion because a lot of this stuff is done within the chamber of a vacuum. So you can't be quantumly entangled with like your soulmate in Australia. So quantum entanglement I'm so sorry. Quantum entanglement can't happen with like human beings. So that's what I talk about with like the broad, quantum entanglement's real. So we're soulmates. I can feel you right now. Mel, can you feel this? We're quantum entangled. That's not how that works. But it does allude to this idea that at least in the confines of a vacuum or the vacuum of space, like everything can be connected to each other, which is wild, insane. And in a way that's not, we can't register in our human brains. We are connected as well. Yeah. And that's often blown out of proportion, especially with the spiritual community. Sorry, spiritual community, with like twin flame stuff. But like, that's insane. So yes, of course. The paranormal is it's just the science.
Yeah. I did not expect you to say yes to that. I really didn't. And it's not because I felt like you're just a huge skeptic of it all.
Because I tell people that I don't believe in ghosts.
But and also because I know that you are such a logical person, and I know that you're very careful with how you phrase things too. And I totally understand where you're coming from on that too. And I'm glad that you answered it the way that you did, because that gave me a different insight that I didn't have to all of this, because I never really thought of all of that as being paranormal, really. But your explanation makes a lot of sense. And I'll have to sit with that and think about that, because that's really interesting.
It's mind blowing. Like,
Yeah.
I simplistically, when it comes to, do I think that when we die, our ethereal forms are wandering around graveyards? That's no. Do I
Fair.
think that there are experiences that make us perhaps think that that's what's happening? Perhaps. Maybe. Do I think it's maybe something much larger than that on a different scale? Even if it's psychosomatic, there's something that's triggering that response? Yeah, and that's just as spooky. It's almost like I think the concept of ghosts are kind of boring.
You're just zhuzhing it up a little bit
You gotta zhuzh it up.
with
It's so,
science.
it's so zhuzhed up, y'all. It's so much more than that.
Much bigger. So I'm wondering, like, well, why is it that mainstream science is often like really goes to dismiss like the paranormal so easily then?
They don't. That's the fun part.
Okay.
So you watch somebody like, and this is going to, just because everybody knows this name. So you watch somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is one of the great minds, especially in entertainment science, and Bill Nye the Science Guy, of course. But when they're speaking about something otherworldly, when they're talking about other galaxies and other dimensions, they are leaving space for the wonder, because the wonder is how we form discovery. I think a lot of the more like biased science, a lot of that is really just, it's not a big part of the science community, because us in the, like, people as paranormal investigators don't have a lot of exposure to the actual scientific community. They really don't. You have exposure to online debunkers. You have exposure to the online, I like science, I hate paranormal kind of things. But when we get into things like quantum physics and people who are into astrophysics, they did not get there because they were like, what you're doing is fake. They were like, that's a really interesting concept. I don't know how much we can back that up with any kind of science, but the wonder is really cool. Like, every great mind questioned all of the things that they wondered about. Where did we come from? What is that in the sky? What is this feeling that I have? What does this mean? What is that feeling? The what, the how. They wanted the answers. And you don't find answers by just going, wrong, 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 wrong. That's not, like, you're going to be wrong a lot on the track to discovery, but now there are ways that insisting that you are right is just as harmful as telling people how wrong they are, because then we get people that fall into science denial. And it's because we think that scientists are so mean and they think that we're all wrong for stuff. So we're just not going to listen to science anymore because they said ghosts aren't real. It's not that anybody's saying ghosts aren't real, but that's such a finite thing that nobody can say that they're real either. And if anybody is poofy chested enough to be like, they're real, period. Honestly, I'm putting you in the same category as the debunker that's like, they're not real, period. Those like finite statements. And I urge you to watch, Neil deGrasse Tyson has this whole entire series on the universe and humanity and where it's going and where it's coming from and outer space. And there's so much room for wonder. And any good scientist, physicist, and researcher is always going to want you to have that space of imagination and have that space for that wonder.
I like that. I like that idea of having like wonder about it because it makes
There's
it
no discovery without dreamers.
right. And it makes it so less scary. I feel like a lot of times when it comes to both science and the paranormal, there's a lot of pressure or there's a lot of like, it's either right or wrong, it's black or white, it's this or that. And that carries a lot of weight to it. And instead of just saying, I wonder, and like, I would just be fascinated, like you were saying earlier, to see all the magic of this and to see what kind of cool things we can discover and kind of look at it with more open minds and open eyes and open hearts. And, you know, I think that that's where all the discoveries really happen. And just like you said, once you start saying things are this, that, or the other, period, end of story, that science seems black and white a lot of times, right? Because this is how this works and that's just that. But if you just end your
There's so much
research
gray.
and your learning there, you're missing out on so much of the in between. You know, which is what the paranormal is really, right? It's that in between, it's that unknown part. Question for you on that note. So I know how you feel about ghosts, but do you feel like there is a measurable form of energy that could explain ghost activity or what we consider to be ghost activity?
I always say that I'm not going to do this, and I always end up doing it anyways. I find it incredibly exciting that like 98% of claimed activity is likely psychosomatic.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I find that so exciting is because if activity, documentable activity, was as prevalent as the paranormal field makes it seem like it is, with the weird shit that's happening in the world, even right now, there would already be a government paranormal team. We would already have ghosts in cages. Like there would already be paranormal warfare. We would already have spirit spies. You know what I mean? Like
Spirit Spies. I think we're going to change the name of this group to Spirit Spies because that sounds so fun.
But it's like, so that what that tells me is a lot of the paranormal is perpetuated by lore, folklore, religious belief, spiritual belief, confirmation bias, and sort of these like psychosomatic impulses of our fight or flight responses and things like that. Not to mention, you don't even want to get neuroplasticity is a topic that people will use their neuroplasticity to pretend like we didn't have the conversation constantly. People have gotten angry with me when I've bridged this subject of like, what if your most visceral paranormal experience didn't happen the way that you remembered it did? Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Angry people.
Yeah.
And I have a cool story of just an example of how I got really interested into that idea. And that started to stem me in that direction of not thinking the majority of what we're documenting or capturing is even what we're documenting or capturing, or, you know what I mean? And why I sort of went into this path of like bigger scale educating on topics and concepts in physics and equipment and things like that. Because I do think that there is plenty unknown that we could tap into. But I do think that we're sort of still at this very like rudimentary stage. But and this will be a very quick story. I hit a deer with my car like 2 years ago. And if you don't know me personally, I am like, listen, there are some people that I love animals. No, like I am a straight up like vegan. Nothing that comes out of an animal, a bug, nothing. Like, get out. I mean, sometimes by accident, whatever. But like, vegan as fuck, man. There was like a fly that was like crawling around. It was probably halfway to death, and I'll like nurse it back to life and put it outside. Literally, it was downstairs. It was like this big, and he kept trying to follow me, and I was like, yo, bro, I gotta go. Come on, here, I gotta put you down. So it's like an obnoxious level of animals or humans, and if there's a hell, it will only be created by the amount of animals that I accidentally harm in my life. And I hit a deer. So
you're in big time hell.
Probably one of the more devastating. And I hit 2 deer in like 3 months. It was awful. I remember the second one though, because I made eye contact with this deer, and it still haunts my dreams because she ran into my driver's side door with her face. Devastating. And I'm pretty sure it was the mom coming back to avenge her baby, because it was a baby that I hit.
Lauren.
Like an adolescent buck. But and here, I do it every single time I tell this story too. I was driving down Route 5, and I'm listening to something, I don't know, whatever. And then there's 2 versions of this story now because I've told this so many times. Original version is a really big piece of sheet metal that has rust all along like the left-hand side going up on top of it. And it's kind of this like weird oblong rectangular shape. Tumbles into the road, hits my car, and tumbles up and over my car. Sheet metal. And then it just like blows. Huge, huge piece of sheet metal. Story number 2, full-size, humongous, big antler buck, like jumps basically on me and then like runs away. So those are the 2 stories that my brain tells me. And I know for my brain, he's like, apparently my brain's a he. My brain's like, the buck you made up, the sheet metal's the real one. That's really what happened, is what my brain tells me. I can't see anything else but that. But after I hit it, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I hit. I pull over. I have an SOS button in my car. Thankfully, I hit the SOS button. I was like, I don't know what I hit. I'm on this really dark road. And they're like, that's okay. We have your GPS. We're sending police. Subaru, everybody. Subaru. And so police get there, and he comes up to the car, and I'm out of the car, and I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea what I hit. And he was like, it's okay. It's okay. It was just a deer. Immediately, I have a fucking breakdown. And he's like, oh my God. And I'm like bawling my eyes out. And he's like, it's okay. It's okay. I think it was okay.
And I'm like, off. It's fine.
I'm on the side of the road, and all I remember yelling was, I'm a vegan. And I'm devastated. And he's just like, oh my God, I don't remember when he left. I don't remember anything else. I just remember me yelling, I'm a vegan, and having a breakdown, and my husband having to come out and like drive 30 minutes to where I was. Cause that's another thing. Like we have each other's locations like for this reason. So he was able to just get to me and like follow me home. And the only reason why I knew was the next day, because I had to take that route for work. There was an adolescent, tiny horned buck on the side of the road that I had, that was the one that I had killed. But I was like, I sat with that for a while. I was like, my brain won't allow me to. And that's sort of what rocketed this, like, when we have these experiences that our brains, our beliefs, our emotions, our nervous system can't necessarily comprehend, our brain will involuntarily create something for us to deal with it. And that is another thing that's fucking paranormal. Hello. Hey, it's right there and it's real. It's in my brain right now. I just told you, like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, how do we know that those visual experiences, those sensory experiences that we have aren't things that our brain's creating for us? Because really, in reality, we're seeing like a fucking interdimensional like beast that looks like a 12-foot tall praying mantis. And our brain's like, no, that's just a shadow person. No, you're okay.
Fine.
It's okay. It's just your grandma. It's just your grandma. You know what I mean? If our brains have that power.
How can we separate coincidence, environmental factors, or suggestion from genuine anomalies?
When we are in a field where we are so confident that it exists, confirmation bias is so much stronger than just being the analytical skeptic of the group. Nah, dude, if you're ghost hunting, you're looking for ghosts. That's just, when I am ghost hunting, I am looking for ghosts. I want something to peek its head out of a door and say my name, okay? Point blank. I'm going to just admit it. And I have to check myself with that. I still want it to happen one day. You know, I want to believe that, like, keeping my mom's wedding dress in my room, it's right there. And keeping, you know, things means that she comes and hangs out every once in a while. I would love to believe that. I want to believe that messages that I receive from my mom in, you know, psychic communication is authentic. You know, like I want to believe all these things. So that's why you don't see me posting paranormal evidence. You don't see me actively being somebody who makes a lot of content really anymore about paranormal investigation. I don't do a lot of like, I don't try to document evidence anymore. I do for myself. I do experiments personally in order to build, in order to research, and in order to just do my own experimentation that I could possibly, you know, document for peer review. But I no longer try to create visual evidence of the paranormal anymore, because I know that my belief of wanting something to happen is going to skew anything that I document. When we don't have a set standard for peer review in the paranormal, and we don't, because nobody wants to be told that the evidence that they believe is real is not. So we don't have any sort of peer review in the paranormal. We don't, because we don't like it. Nobody likes to be told that's a camera thing. Or you hear all the time, oh, I'm not going to post this because nobody's going to think it's real.
So,
like, did you just tell on yourself? Like, does that mean that there's a percentage of you that doesn't think it's real? Like, if you can have the doubts about your own experiences and data, that's like your inner voice telling you something. Mm-hmm. Oh, I just don't like cynics. You have to have a peer review process. There has to be some sort of checks and balances. Otherwise, honestly, and I have been presented with some like really cool captures from people, really cool. And I know it's because they want some sort of confirmation from like the fucking nerd on TikTok. And it's like, I can't with good confidence ever really confirm somebody's captures. I'm always like, that's really, really cool. Did you have this angle? And it's more questions like, did you have this angle, that angle, whatever? And I'm like, I'm not trying to tell you that I think it's fake. I believe you because I do. I believe the person that's presenting to me because I honestly believe that this is very important and very authentic to them. And that is what I'll always validate. I will always validate somebody's like personal feelings about their own data. But I'm like, you know what would be awesome? do this, this, and this next time when you're trying to catch this kind of
Yes.
evidence, because that's going to make it more compelling. And that's why I'll talk about setting up paranormal experience or experiments, doing variables in your experiments, just trying to help people find better ways so those that do want to go out and catch evidence can start to catch maybe a little bit more objective evidence. And I try to practice that with myself as well, too. Because it's my dead mom's wedding dress over there. And I'll tell you what, there's shit that's happened in here, okay? I don't film it,
And
though.
you know what? Who knows? It could be your mom. And maybe it's not, but maybe it is.
We do have a better relationship now that she's not here anymore. And I have like, look at this, this is like somebody's haunted doll that they gave me. And I'm like, cool, I'm going to give that dude a platform. Do something, Ernie.
Does he have a name?
Yeah, it's Ernie.
Ernie.
Like Sesame Street Ernie.
Come on, Ernie. Welcome to the
real
party,
Ernie.
pal.
Where's Bert? Oh,
I do see.
It is Ernie.
This is my first time. So my friend Dawn was having some trouble with Ernie at her house, and he has these on right now, and he has
Is that
some
for our protection or his?
yeah, and he has some like mechanics in him. He's a battery operated doll, and he does not have batteries in him, right? Come on, buddy. Oh no, he has some dead batteries in him, which I kept those in there. But yeah, so he doesn't work. He's like a push. He's like a push doll. So he doesn't work. He has dead batteries in him. And I keep the dead batteries in there for, you know, ooh, maybe there's energy that will temporarily charge these batteries so Ernie can talk to me and like say he's going to suck my blood while I'm sleeping or something. So she was having trouble with Ernie because she said that Ernie would he would turn on randomly. So she was like, do you want to take him apart? And I said, I would feel bad taking Ernie apart, but I'm like, but I'll take him. So Ernie effectively is my one and only supposed haunted doll.
Has he done anything?
No.
No.
Maybe we'll put his little things up and we'll see if this helps, if he starts having his eyes open. Isn't he cute? Look
I'm
at his
going to
little
say
shoes.
yes.
Is he gonna
just
say, "Hey,
because
Bert"?
Yeah. I'm going to say
Hey, Bert.
yes, he's cute because I don't want him to show up in my dreams tonight. So yes, Ernie, you stay over there.
With his rubber ducky.
Yeah.
Rubber ducky, you're the one.
I'm going to have nightmares now.
I'm gonna go put him back. I'm so sorry. I am gonna put your. No, you know we'll keep it open, okay? Boop boop.
Let Ernie see.
The cute thing is that my dad used to do like a Grover impression, and I would always, when I was little, I had this book, this Sesame Street book that I don't remember what it was called. It was some Grover, and my
Where
dad
he's
would.
a superhero? The one where
Is
he's
it-
like,
Is it the monster at the end of the book?
that's the one, yes.
I don't know, maybe.
That's my favorite from growing up.
But my dad would read it in Grover's voice,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
was like my favorite childhood memory. Want to find? My dad was the one that would take me to all of like the science museums, and I have like a picture of my dad, and man, do I want to find it. I have, if anybody's ever seen me at one of my shows or anything like that, like I always have like a Van de Graaff generator with me, which is this cute little thing right here. I don't have
Yeah.
it up. Usually I have it up behind me. I have my Tesla coil though.
Yep.
But and I have a picture of me as a little girl, and we're gonna keep him up there, and if he moves, you guys can tell me. Hold on, we'll make it one better. I have a picture of me as a little girl, and there we go. And my dad's holding me, and he has his hand on a big, huge Van de Graaff generator, and my hair's really big, and I'm in a science, like a lab coat. And I had it
You
out for
have
some
to
reason,
find
and I
that.
cannot find it, and I need to find it.
How special. My next question is going to be, how would you say that women factor into this equation in terms of science and the paranormal? Like, do you feel that they're
Equation.
more or less
Science time.
inclined? Yeah. Like, do you think women are more or less inclined to approach things scientifically? Obviously, and Lauren and I actually kind of bonded over this when we first met, but like there's this perception that all women in the paranormal are either a psychic or a medium or an empath, and that's just that. Like all of us, we have to be. That's just how it is because we're women. But obviously there's a lot of women who are approaching things with a more scientific mind. How could you speak to that a little bit for us?
You know, I'm going to be honest. It's very difficult to speak to that because I don't know all of the women in the paranormal. What I can say, I know, right? What the hell?
Aren't we
What
all
I
best friends?
I know, right? What I can say is that I would like to see more normalization of women feeling confident enough to hold the center seat. And I do see a lot of a lot of diversity, a lot of teams that have a lot of different kinds of people. But I do think that the Vancouver Paranormal Society, so almost all of the women in the Vancouver Paranormal Society, and it's the majority, it's a women, basically an all women team. And they all have midnight crystal pods. But and I think that's really, really cool. I would love to see the normalization and acceptance of women in the center seat. And women in the center seat in terms of not just like because they're witchy or they're cutesy or they're this or that, like not so much that they have some sort of like gimmick, I guess. I have been approached because there's not a, and I don't want to say this to single this out because again, I don't know all women in the paranormal, but I have been looking, I have yet to really find singular women. There are a few one-ofs that I am in contact with, but women that aren't accompanied by their husband or other people that are equipment builders that have like a wide variety of builds, past, just like one or two specialties. And I think that that's a big issue too in the world of science as well too. We don't see a ton of women in STEM, and the women that we do see, especially in current times right now, are almost being erased from historical reference. Like it's not supposed to be special that a woman is in it because, I don't know, inclusivity means exclusivity, and that's not what the whole point is. There's not a huge presence of women, but some of the biggest fucking discoveries and triumphs in science are because of women, first of all. Some of the most incredible, I'm talking about even like the fucking moon landing and shit. So that doesn't necessarily mean that women are more science-minded than anybody. I don't think there's a more or less. I do think that there is a disparity in how women are appreciated for what they contribute. I don't think women are inherently smarter than men. I don't think that women are inherently more science-minded. I have met plenty of overly spiritual bypassing women. Same with women, actually might be more spiritual, more witchy. But I do think that women lack the appreciation that they are deserving of. And I do think that stops a lot of women from pursuing something that might be a little bit more analytical and prone to scrutiny. Because we have historically sort of fell into the place where we thought that we belonged and fell into the place where we thought that we wouldn't make, too many waves, fell into the places that kept the peace. And not that we need to all, pull out our fucking titties and start, shooting people from horses, but, which, that was a war tactic. And, but it is like women are more than women. And it doesn't mean that we're inherently better than anybody, but we are better than the spot that we're afforded, that we're being given.
Right.
Yeah.
That didn't answer your question at all, but that is what I'm going
Yeah,
with.
it did. I think that was a great answer. So we've got one more question for you for now. Rachel, do you want to dive into the last one?
Yeah. So it's kind of what advice would you give to young people, particularly women, who are interested in pursuing a career in the paranormal field?
Besides, don't do it. You can't just say don't do it.
Sam and Colby are not going to investigate with you.
Forget it.
Isn't that the
Podcast's
truth?
over.
Although I did investigate with them, so maybe that's not true. Honestly, advice specifically for women who want to join the paranormal. Find out what everybody thinks that you should do and do the complete opposite. Ding! Unless it's like the science stuff, then like follow me, Lauren Hans. I do witchy stuff too.
All right. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for chatting with us today. It is always a pleasure.
Thank you, Lauren.
And now it's time that we ask you, do you, Lauren Hellekson, want to become a member of the Secret Society of the Spooky Sisterhood?
Wait, what the fuck? I already thought I was. Bitch,
No, you gotta...
I helped plan the Spooky Sisterhood. Surprise,
Listen.
everybody. It's me. I've been in the background. The secret
You're supposed to play make-believe with me for a second here.
No, you thought
You're
I
supposed to
wasn't
say,
there.
hell yeah.
I was there when she was birthing the Spooky Sisterhood.
It's true. It's true. You and Heidi Willis. Shout out to Heidi.
And I always said, too, I was like, I just want to be a shadow.
Yeah.
Listen.
She used to whisper that to me in my sleep. I'm just kidding.
I'm a part of the Spooky Sisterhood, whether anybody likes it or not.
Well, would you like to take your official Spooky Sisterhood oath? How about that?
Oh. There's an oath? Oh, geez.
Yes.
Okay.
See, you've been missing out, man. All right,
How's that
you ready?
going on?
And you can raise your hand or not. I told Alex last week, if you want to take it, you want to put your middle finger up, you want to like do a thumbs up, you want to do whatever you want.
Do one of these Baphomet.
Is that what that is? I support it. Would you like to do that?
She's like, I'm ready.
All right.
Go.
So,
You should see my arm right now.
Lauren.
I'm like, so it's in the screen.
you're just like T-Rex arms. Repeat after me, Lauren.
Lauren.
No. All right, are you ready? I'm going to start again.
Yes.
Okay, repeat after me. I, Lauren, promise to
I, Lauren, promise to
show compassion to the spirits, my community, and myself.
just kidding. Show compassion to the
spirits, my
the
community,
and myself.
Remain open-minded and non-judgmental.
God, Melanie.
Just say it.
Remain open-minded and not judgmental.
Use critical thinking.
Use critical thinking.
Treat people, places, and things with respect.
Treat people, places, things with respect.
And above all, keep it spooky.
Okay, and above all, keep it spooky.
Yes.
Welcome to the
Oh,
siblinghood.
yay!
You cracked me up. Okay, so before we go, can you tell everybody what you've got coming up and where they can find you?
I'm doing a lot at Hillview Manor in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. I am this year, and I'm very excited about this, I am headlining their paranormal convention, HillCon, with the one and only Heather Taddy.
Oh, nice.
Her and
Awesome.
her and I are headlining HillCon together. So we're doing the whole VIP event afterwards together. We have some really, really cool things planned. And then I'll be back again. And that's June 7th. And then I'll be back again on June 21st with the one and only David Giuliano, who, if you don't know, you need to know, because that is an OG. Now, if you like taps, Giuliano knew taps before taps was taps, y'all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Owner of the Ghost Hunter store, and reason why the crystal pot is all over the world. But him and I are doing a big class called Beyond the Veil, Essentials of Paranormal Investigation together. And that's in June as well, too. So lots of fun stuff happening in June. Yay!
Yeah. And how can
Olive,
people
he'll be
find
there.
you so they can keep up with all this?
Put in Lauren Hunt into Google, and I'm the only one.
Awesome.
It pops up.
Awesome.
It's me. And it's almost trademarked, so it's really just going to be me.
Oh, that's exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's all happening.
It's all happening.
Okay, so before we sign off, I just want to give a reminder to check us out on social media. You can visit beacons.ai/spooky sisterhood. And from there, you can find links to our socials, our website, our videos, our guests' info. So you'll be able to find Lauren's info there and so much more. I want to give a big thank you to our wonderful Patreon pals. If you'd like to join us for some after the gavel conversation with our special guests and have the opportunity to ask them specific questions along with several other awesome perks, you can also join our Patreon for that. And with that, if there's no more business, this meeting of the Secret Society of the Spooky Sisterhood is adjourned. As always, keep it spooky, Sibs.